Hey guys, I'm Jason White. This is Jason's Weird Reads, and thank you for tuning in. Um, so, I'm not the only one, but there's been a few people who have been a little late with their December wrap-ups, and I'm one of them. I had a really busy beginning of January, and also my whole issue with SAD got really bad too. There was a couple of days where I probably could have, done this, but I just wasn't up to it. I couldn't focus at all. It was bad. But you know what? I'm coming back out of it, and so I'm gonna carry on here. December actually was a pretty slow month for me reading-wise, mostly because of the holidays. Me and the I spent a lot of time with my family, which is always nice, and reading wasn't put to the sidelines or anything like that. It just slowed down, and we had a lot of fun this holidays, and my favorite time of the year, honestly, is Halloween and Christmas. And I think once Christmas is over or New Year's is over, I always kind of hit a bit of a low in my moods. And the reason for that is I think it's just all the excitement is suddenly gone, and you sort of become depressed. But I have been reading, and let's continue on with December. So one book that I was able to read in 2 nights. Actually, I listened to it on my Scribd subscription, and that was Bird Box. I listened to this while at work, right around Christmas time, so I had to work right up to Christmas Eve, and it was pretty slow. So I had the time to plug in, and there was nobody else where I worked except for me and my partner. And so I was able to, plug in my earphones and listen to large chunks of the book at a time. And I kind of made it a thing that weekend. It was the weekend where the Bird Box movie was premiered on Netflix. I have to say I really enjoyed the book more than the movie. The movie is good. It's just that it's too much like a zombie film, even though there's no zombies in it. Where the book is, it's a piece of art. It's really very literary horror, post-apocalyptic fiction. One thing I really enjoyed about the book was how creepy it was. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, it's post-apocalyptic, right? They can be scary, sure, but this one had some real creep factor to it. Not really going to go into the plot. I mean, I'm sure you probably know about it, but if you don't, the basic concept is a woman, I can't remember her name, Mallory, I think it is, and her 2 children are trying to survive in this post-apocalyptic world where if you step outside, there's a possibility you'll see this creature that exists worldwide, and it will drive you insane. And you will eventually, if not right away, kill yourself with this insanity. It does something to you, and it makes you kill yourself. And there's just some parts in the book, going back to the creepiness, that really impressed me, where Mallory, if that's her name, where she had to go out and get something, and she could sense that the creature is there, but she can't see it. She's got a blindfold on. Josh Malerman just really knows how to build up suspense around those types of scenes. And there's a couple of times where it's really creepy. And in the movie adaptation, there was a couple of parts where they were trying to emulate that, but it didn't really work out. Like I said, the movie is good. It's a good representation, I guess, of his work, but it's of Bird Box the book, but it's not the same thing. It's really quite different, actually. But they're both different beasts, and they're both enjoyable. You can't really judge one on the other, though. I kind of like it when movies do that, actually, when they take a concept and just make it their own. I used to hate that, but I've come to appreciate it. And so I appreciate the movie, although I'm not really a huge fan of it, if that makes sense. It's good. It's just, it could have been better if they followed the book just a bit more. I just kind of contradicted myself, didn't I? Okay, so that was Bird Box. It was a really fun experience, though, let me tell you. Reading the book and then watching the movie all in the same weekend. But Hark, the Herald, Angels Scream. This is a really fun holiday read. I read it because in preparation for an interview I did with Christopher Golden, the editor of the anthology. And as I said, I forgot to post the link in the last video. I'm going to try my damnedest to remember to post it in this one. And I did that for the Great Lakes Horror Company podcast. And, you know, talking to Christopher Golden was a lot of fun. But reading this was even more fun than talking to him. No offense, Christopher. It was just, you know, all the stories in here are so good. And I wasn't really feeling the season all that much until I started reading the stories in this book. And I finished it in early December. And this book really kicked off the whole Christmas feeling for me. I just love that cover, too. It's a really cool cover. But, you know, you don't have to be a fan of Christmas, actually, to enjoy the stories in this. A lot of the stories have a bit of a Christmas feel to them, some of them more than others. Some of them are, you know, just stories about winter and terrible things happening around the Christmas season. It just happens to be Christmas. And there's plenty of women writers in here as well, which is very much a plus. And I think I gave this like 4.5 stars. It's a very fun read. I suggest you pick it up if you like horror or seasonal themed anthologies, especially horror anthologies, for next Christmas, and give it a go. I think you'll really enjoy it. I enjoyed pretty much every story in that anthology. It was just a lot of fun. And also, I finished right at the end of December, maybe early January, but I picked this up and I read it. The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. Now this book is so, you know, it's one of those books that really make you think. Now, one complaint a lot of readers have regarding this book is the second point narrative. I've talked about this book before and I mentioned that, and knowing what the second point narrative is now, it's actually very fascinating. And, you know, whenever I come across a short story with the second person narrative, which actually there is a story like that in here, but in this book, it doesn't feel like the author or the narrator is speaking to you. They're actually speaking to another character. You just happen to be listening in on what they're saying to that character. That's all I'm going to say about that, because there's some interesting things happening in this book. There's 3 storylines, and 3 characters, and by the end of the book they all collide and it becomes one giant story. The basic premise is this is set in a complete fantasy world, and it's a world that's very hostile to humans. Every so often a 5th season comes along, and what a 5th season is pretty much a cataclysmic event that has the potential of wiping out humanity completely. And within this world there are wizards that are known as origins, and they have the power to control the earth, but they're very much looked down upon. They're actually feared, like they're seriously feared. People hate origins. And there's these people, what are they called? I can't remember what they're called, but there's these guardians, I think they're called. They come and they take origins that are known, and they take them as children, and they take them to this school where they're taught how to control their earth powers, so to speak. And they, in turn, the farther they advance within the school, the more rings they get to put on their fingers. And that is sort of like a status for how far advanced they are. It'd be sort of like in the military where you have the things on your arm showing you what rank you are. So that's the basic premise. I don't really want to get into the plot of who is in the story because it'd be so easy to ruin what happens. If you haven't read this, then I highly recommend it. It's very dark, and it's the prose is almost poetic to the point where it immerses you into the world, and this world is almost three-dimensional inside your mind. At least it was for me while I was reading it. And I can't recommend this book enough. It's definitely a favorite. I'm gonna have to check when exactly I finished it. Pretty sure it was might have been January, actually, early January. But still, I wanted to talk about it, and so I'm talking about it. And you know, this will lead into what I'm currently reading, which would have been, you know, my January to be read. And I'm reading the second book. I don't have the physical copy yet. I'm currently reading it on ebook, but I'm going to get the physical copy. And that's the Obelisk Gate. And obelisks in the story in the fifth season, and obviously in this series. I don't know if it's a trilogy or if N.K. Jemisin is continuing beyond the 3 books that are out. But obelisks in it are like these big floating islands. And I'm going to leave it at that as well. But that's interesting as well. I really love the obelisks. I think they're a fascinating concept. You've seen them before in other fantasy works. But I really like how N.K. Jemisin has incorporated it into her fiction. Alright, so yeah, I'm reading the Obelisk Gate. Now, I had meant to read Dune Messiah for a group read with Mindy and Dane and a few others, and it just didn't happen for me. One reason was because it kind of started really fast, and I wanted to actually read the first Dune over again because it's been like 15 years since I read that, and so the whole Dune thing for me has kind of been put on the back burner. And I apologize to the people who I said I would, you know, I'd read along with them, and then I didn't. You know, it's no problem. Just pick it up again some other time. And also, I'm reading this for another read-along, The Last Wish, by, what's his name, Andrzej Sapkowski. I probably butchered that, and I apologize if I did. But yeah, I'm reading this for Elliot Brooks's. She's doing a Brandon Sanderson and a Witcher read along, and I am doing both, but I'm not doing everything for the Sanderson Cosmos because I've read a fair amount and I don't feel like rereading a lot of it. But I want to tackle Way of Kings again this year with that read along because my own read along kind of failed. And yeah, so I'm reading this right now. I'm only 2 stories in, but that's per quota to where we should be in the read along. I think I need to start catching up with some more. But so far, I really enjoy the way it's written. It has a strange sort of classic pulp fiction feel to the way the characters talk to each other, and the way the action kind of comes out. So that's very interesting. I'm excited to see where this series goes. And if you don't know, this is apparently the best one to start with. It's full of short stories, but it introduces you to all the characters that will play a big role further along in the in the series. And I guess if you start with the actual book 1, you might be confused with the characters because you won't know who they are. And there's, I guess, a lot of them. I don't know. I guess I will find out, and I'll let you know. But this is The Last Wish. The Witcher is technically book 1. It says introducing The Witcher on the spine. Ooh. I don't know if you can see that, but that's what it says. And so yeah, I'm reading that. Also, Nevermoor. I'm just about to finish this book. This is a middle grade book by Jessica Townsend, I believe her name is. I'm listening to this again on my Scribd subscription, and I'm having a lot of fun with this book. like I said, I'm almost finished it, and I'm seriously considering jumping right into book 2 once I'm done, because, like I said, it's a lot of fun. A lot of people are comparing it to Harry Potter, and I definitely see the Harry Potter like type of fiction, but it's also very much a different story. You can tell that it's been influenced by Harry Potter. And one thing, and it's not as good as Harry Potter either, even though I'm loving it, and I'm thinking I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5, maybe 4.5. The one thing about, like, if you were to compare it to Harry Potter, I would say that its story is thinner than Harry Potter so far, anyway. This is a series. There's 2 books so far, and obviously Nevermoor is the first. But the first book, you're dealing with a 10-year-old child, so it makes sense that the language and the things that happen in it seem watered down. But from my memory anyway, and I'm thinking that I might do a Harry Potter reread sometime soon, even in Harry Potter's first book, the Philosopher's Stone, or whatever it is you call it, depending on what side of the pond you're on, I remember it being a little bit more complex and deeper than this book. But that doesn't take away from Nevermoor at all. It's just it's a very good read. It's very fun, and it's fast. I mean, you can blow through this thing really quickly. I'm looking forward to reading that, and maybe having a physical copy if I talk about it again, because I'm enjoying it so much. I didn't realize that I was missing middle grade type fantasy. I apparently am. So there you have it. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please comment if you've read any of these books, or you're planning to read any of these books, and like the video if you enjoyed watching it. If you made it this far, why not hit the like button, and subscribe if you haven't. So thanks everyone for watching. Keep being creative, and we will catch you on the next video.